All right, so in this video, we're just going to clarify a couple of things that it seems that a few people are still misunderstanding. So hopefully this video will help. Okay, so I want you guys to find this worksheet. Okay, um, and the first thing that I want to talk about is what is the definition of congruent triangles? Okay, so in these boxes, okay, um, in these boxes, I want you to write, so two triangles are congruent if and only if corresponding sides are congruent, and congruent means exactly the same, and all corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, so that's really important that both the sides and the angles need to be congruent. Okay, and everything is going to match up with everything. Okay, so we want to use the pair of triangles to the right to match up each pair of congruent angles and each pair of congruent sides. So if you want to pause the video and try this out on your own, feel free. Okay, if you don't and you want to follow along, no worries. Okay. So notice that angle A, and this is our symbol for congruent, right? So this is the symbol for congruent. So I want to make sure we're well aware of that. So it says angle A. So notice that angle A only has one little arc. So notice that angle D only has one little arc. So angle D is going to match up. And yes, we do want to use the symbols. B has two little half arcs. And notice that E has two little half arcs. So that means that B and E are congruent. And that just leaves C and F. And again, notice that there's little three lines, and F also has three little lines. Okay, so angle C and angle F. Also, what this means is that the side pairs match up. And so when we talk about side lengths, we do want to include two letters. Okay, so if I say A and B, so notice that A and B have the little tick mark on here. That means that I would include the one that only has one tick mark, which is DE. Okay, BC has two tick marks, so that means that EF also has two tick marks. So I'd say EF, and that leaves the last one as CA, and so this would be FD. Okay. So we can say, so since all corresponding parts are congruent, we know the triangles are congruent. Okay. So what I can say is this. Now I'm going to potentially run out of space because my handwriting is very big. And so this is a congruent statement. And so what I want to say is I'm going to say that triangle, and again, that's the symbol for triangle, ABC is congruent. Now, this is important. We want to match up the letters to ABC. And so we're going to use it in the order that's written. And so I would say that A goes with D, E goes with the B, and F, oops, went with oops, see if I can get that. There we go. And F went with the C. Okay, I could also switch the letters around. So I could say maybe BAC, right? And again, that's going to match up with E, D, and F. Okay, I could do this one more time. Maybe I'm going to say CBA, and then the triangle would be FED. So again, it doesn't matter which letters you start with. The most important thing is that our things match up. Okay. So what happens if I don't have tick marks on my triangle? Right? So what does corresponding mean? And we've already talked about corresponding angles, or we should have already at this point. So we're going to use our information given to us right here. Okay. So BAC and EDF. So notice it says angle A. So notice that angle A is in the middle. So what's in the middle is angle D. So that means that those two are going to match up. So notice that nothing was given to us on these triangles now. Okay. So angle B is the first letter, right? And that means that it's going to match up with angle E. And then finally, C is going to match up with F. Okay. So again, kind of important to figure out kind of what's happening. I'll change my color. So what happens if I want to talk about corresponding side parts, right? Side pairs. Okay. So A and B. So A and B are those first two letters. So that means that those first two letters, right? D and E are going to match up. B and C, so first and last, which means that it's going to be E and F. And then finally, CA, this would match up with FD. Okay, purple wasn't any better than orange. I apologize. Okay. So when it says corresponding, it refers to pairs in the same position, while congruent refers to pairs of the same angle or size. So we can kind of say something like that. Okay. So going forward, right? You should have watched some videos on the triangle congruent theorems, and so you have this paper now in front of you. And again, this is just to readdress our 5 congruence theorems. So again, we're going to use the definition of congruent triangles. We must know about all the sides and all the angles, and that's a lot of information. So mathematicians have actually proven all 5 of these, so we don't have to go ahead and prove them. But what I want to point out, so SSS again stands for side, side, side. Okay, so instead of writing out the three sides, we could just write out SSS. Notice that for ASA, notice that the side is in between. Okay, that is really, really, really important, right? So on this one, the side is in between the two angles. Okay, because if you look at the next one, you have angle, angle, side. It's technically 2 angles and a side, but now notice that the side is not between the 2 angles. But notice where it is. So notice that on this one, it is next to the 1 angle, and again, this is next to the 1 angle. So again, the order of our letters is important, right? And then finally, SAS, notice that the angle, this time the angle is between the 2 sides. So 2 sides. Okay. And last but not least, hypotenuse leg. You have to use hypotenuse leg if you're given 2 criteria. You have a right angle and you have a hypotenuse, right? The H, and you have the leg, right? So if you are not given that information, then don't use hypotenuse leg. And then one that I've been seeing a lot, and again, you can kind of see this, it does say below, I'm not going to give an example necessarily. I'm just going to say that SSA is not a theorem. Okay, that's definitely one that's not a theorem, right? Not a theorem, and also AAA, angle, 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 is not a theorem. And I'm talking about congruence theorem. AAA, you'll later find out that it is a theorem, just not a congruence theorem. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and I want you to try this worksheet that starts with this problem. Just try filling it out, see how you do, and after you fill it out, go ahead, press play, and all will be good. Okay, So if you are pressing play, that means you filled this out. So you'll also see that you have a little line segment above E and F. Again, that's a little symbol I forgot to put on the previous notes. So again, this is just talking. So whenever you see E, F with the line above, this is just talking about line segment, right? So again, important. So EF, so what does E match up with? It matches up with X, and F matches up with Z. So we should have said X, Z. And if you put the line above it, awesome. If you didn't, no worries. Okay. Number 2, notice that it says angle M. So angle M is in the middle. So that means that Q is also in the middle. So we should have said angle Q here. 3, we said is angle F, so that starts our triangle, which means that angle A also is going to start. And then finally, ST was the first 2 letters, so that means that XY are our second 2 letters. So again, those line segments meet up. All right, continuing on our worksheet. We see this, complete each congruent statement, then write a triangle congruence statement. That's what this guy right here is. So again, this is just talking about which angles meet up with which angles. So angle Q right here has only one little line. Angle U also just has one little line. So that means I'm going to write angle U. So then when I match these up, QRS is going to match up with U. R has 3, so R is going to match up with W, and then it just leaves the last letter. Okay. If we look at 6, right, A to B, right, A has 2 little tick marks, so E also has has 2 little half angles. And then B has a right angle, which means that it'll match up with D. So then our triangle should read ABC. So this will be E, D, and then C. All right, looking at number 7, high. So HI, so H is going to match up with F, and I matches up with E. So boom, just like that. But notice this one's a little trickier. We wrote it as EFG. So again, E matched up with the other angle I. F matches up with H, and then G is going to match up with G. So again, see which triangle is written first. It does not make a difference. Okay. And then last but not least, on number 8, angle X. So angle X has 3, and P also has 3. So I'll put a little 3 there. And then our triangle statement. So R had 1 tick mark, so that would be letter Z. Q had 2, which was Y, and then P matched up with X, so we should see an X right there. All right, and then the last question on this worksheet says, if the triangles, right, QRS and BCD are congruent, what is the corresponding part of SQ? So that would be your first and last letter. So that means the corresponding part would be D and B. That would be your answer. Okay. So on the worksheet that you are about to do, okay, so you are going to decide if triangles are congruent or not. And so if they are congruent, you are going to put one of the 5 answer choices that were discussed, HL, sorry. Technically, you do want to put congruence after them because a couple of these do have a similarity. So we want to know that it's congruence. So you're going to state the theorem. So you're going to state your theorem, and then you're going to state the congruence statement. So congruence statement, and your statement is triangle, again, ABC is going to be congruent to triangle DEF. Okay, so that's what you guys are going to work on that worksheet. All right, any questions, feel free to email Miss Barron, or you can stop by room 218, Miss Cardenstern, that's me, and get any clarifying help after school. Good luck.